quiet one today.
I mean, what is going on here?
Fired up.
Welcome to Let's Talk Football Live, presented by Connors and Ferris. Mike Catalana, Dan Fates. I'm Jenna Cottrell. The Bills 7-2. We're breaking down both their game against the Seahawks, that great win they had.
Casually, you just say the Bills 7-2.
I know. It's their best record
since 93.
93.
I was two.
I was going to say, Mike.
I was following them to the Super Bowl.
You were not 2 years old?
No, I was not 2 years old. Let's see. 91, 92, 93. So that was the third year of the Super Bowl run, right? Third year of the Super Bowl run.
Yeah, that would make sense.
No, 90 season. 90, 91, 92. It was the last
92.
year of the Super Bowl run.
Okay.
And then the game was played in 94. By the way, they lost all those Super Bowls.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Wow.
In case you wanted to know.
Okay, we were starting on a positive note.
7-2 is great.
I was going to say, let's go back to the 7-2.
Yeah, 7-2 is great.
All right, as always, we want to hear from you. Any comments, questions, concerns, thoughts, literally anything talking about the Bills, talking about the league in general. We want to hear from you on Facebook Live as well as on YouTube. We'll be monitoring the comments.
Buffalo Plus YouTube page.
Buffalo Plus YouTube page.
Yeah.
Correct. We're going live from there as well. Dan, any comments so far? People being shy tonight?
Not yet.
I should be turning this way.
We're just on. I'm on Facebook Live. Mike has got YouTube. Mike?
I've got the YouTube page. Yep.
All right.
Buffalo Plus YouTube.
Yes, we're going to be talking about the Seahawks win. We're also going to look ahead to this week, Kyler Murray, the challenge that he will be. Also, if you're on Twitter, be sure to check out Dan Fates' tweet about the Josh Allen to Kyler Murray comparison, because it is
It's got to be the
kiss.
biggest height comparison in NFL history. 6'5" and 5'10". Has there ever been a 7-inch gap?
I don't know.
Oh, well, how about when, well, I guess I was going to say when Doug Flutie was with the Patriots, well, they were on the same team with Drew Bledsoe. That's about the same. Close. Yeah. Close.
All right, we will be right back.
It's time to give your opinion on the Bills and the NFL. Let's Talk Football Live. Now, here's the 13 Wham Sports Team.
Welcome into Let's Talk Football Live, presented by Connors and Ferris. Mike Catalana, Dan Fates. I am Jenna Cottrell. The Bills are 7-2, had a signature win against the Seahawks last week. This week, they're looking ahead to facing off against the Arizona Cardinals. Mike, we call it a signature win, one of those wins we were waiting for from the Bills, a dominant win. What did you learn about this Buffalo team after Sunday?
A couple of things. I think we learned they can beat a good team, and they can win a shootout, which is what we wanted to see. I said to you guys before, I felt like they got cheated. We got cheated when they played against Kansas City. I wanted to see the best team. I wanted to see the shootout, and it ended up being a boring game. This was not a boring game. And Josh Allen, you see, named the AFC Player of the Week. Man, he deserved it. He was fantastic on Sunday. And again, people can, have at different times, who have the Bills beaten? Well, now they've beaten the Seahawks. And you got the win against the Rams. You got the win against. That's all that is fine. But Dan, this was the first time they beat a team that you can say is legitimately been a playoff team.
Yeah, they were the #1 seed in the NFC, and it was a big win. And this was a game that Sean McDermott was 3-15 against eventual playoff teams. So this was a big win for not only him, but for Josh Allen, because again, a lot of times when you look at games, guys, it's who has the better quarterback usually wins the games. And you know what? Russell Wilson is probably still ahead of Allen in the MVP conversation, but Josh kind of threw his hat back, at least in the conversation, and he outplayed Russell Wilson. There is no question about it. Now, we do need to say we wouldn't be doing our job if we didn't say the Seahawks defense stinks. Historically bad.
It's not great.
But give Brian Daboll and Josh Allen all the credit in the world for what they were able to draw up. Brian Daboll is just amazing. We've said that before, but being sarcastic before at a Zoom call on Monday, he said that he wanted to throw the ball 31 times in the first half, but had to eventually throw in a couple of runs by accident. So, look, they ran the ball 38 times against the Patriots, Mike. They threw it 38 times against the Seahawks.
Well, and we know, Dan, we know you love that, especially considering your thoughts on the passing game and how important that is. How excited were you to see just the fact that Brian Daboll and, once again, Josh Allen was letting it fly, the offense, through his arm?
Yeah, look, weather played a factor in the Kansas City game, and I get all of that, but this team is going to go as far as Josh Allen takes them, and it was back to letting Josh cook. He was in total control of the offense from start to finish there. They were the team that came out and punched the Seahawks in the mouth. It was a lot of fun to see, and you don't need to run the football. It is overrated.
We'll get more into that,
Yeah.
of course, because that's going to be a long discussion that doesn't stop right here. But, Mike, we also saw something that I thought, and I know Bills Mafia was really impressed by, was just the poise that Allen had after the game. We learned that his grandmother had passed away.
Yeah.
Allen making the decision to play. He said that his grandmother would have wanted him, his Grammy would have wanted to see him out there. And then the Bills Mafia donations rolling into Oshai Children's Hospital. Over $400,000 donated. And yesterday we got to talk to Josh about how he felt. Listen to what Josh had to say about his reaction just to the outpouring of support that he's had in these last couple of days.
Words can't really describe, how I feel, how my family feels. Every time I call my parents and let them know, the new number, they just start bawling all over again. And to know that people care and that so much good is coming out of a tough situation, it means the world to myself. It means the world to my family. It just shows how this Bills community and this Buffalo community rally around each other. And that's what, they've been known for, and that's what they're still known for. I can't thank everybody who supported and donated and did. I can't thank them enough.
Really is incredible, too. Over $400,000 donated.
I'll make the comparison between Josh and Jim Kelly. Jim's personal story, it ended up being with his son, became Buffalo's story, Western New York's story. People lived everything through Jim. And he took everybody to 4 Super Bowls, too, which is great.
Yeah.
But he didn't want to come to Buffalo, and then he ends up coming here, and he's still the icon of Buffalo. And you got Josh Allen, who I think, even Kelly, he might have played at the University of Miami, but he's a Pittsburgh guy. Like, he's a Buffalo guy.
Yeah.
Like, he's the same kind of guy.
Yeah.
Well, Josh, Fireball, California, and Wyoming, never thought of as that guy. I think he's a Buffalo guy, and I don't even think he realized how much he would be embraced by the community.
Yeah.
And he's winning as a quarterback, and he's opened himself up to the community. But it was interesting. The one thing I wanted to mention is when we did the interviews after the game, Josh never mentioned his grandmother.
He did not, no.
He didn't say a word. It was Sean McDermott who brought that out, and that's how everybody found out about it. It wasn't like he said, I was playing, and only somewhat of his teammates knew about it. So I love the fact that he's now opened up and appreciates it so much and what the fans have done. And for Buffalo fans, that's unbelievable.
That's
$400,000.
It's incredible. And you talk about the transition of, when he came to Buffalo, a lot of Bills Mafia did not want the Bills to draft him to now where he is. But also take a look at his progression on the field. Dan, what stands out to you about just the transgression we've seen him have over these last 3 years, and especially on Sunday against Seattle?
It's crazy to think that he's 24 years old. You go back to the draft day where he had tweets from his high school day come out. He had to overcome that. He's overcome criticism. He has overcome injuries, and he's still just 24 years old. The maturity level continues to rise, and you hear players talk about him and call him a fighter and a competitor and a dog. This week, everybody kind of called him Buffalo. Stephon Diggs called him a true leader. Like, that support, along with wins, is really big. And so to see him grow, and like I said, the big thing this year is his play on the field. He used to get eaten alive by blitzes and man coverage. He struggled against them. He is dominating man coverage and blitzes, which is what Seattle did to him. Right now, it's because of Stephon Diggs. It's because of John Brown. It's because of his receiving core. Somebody made a comment that the receiving core this year is just so much better, and they're right. And that's what's allowing Josh to cook against these crossing routes. Mike, he has been dynamite. And Seattle was surprised that they threw the ball, which was mind-blowing to me. Pete Carroll, a Super Bowl winning coach, was shocked that they abandoned the run and pretty much watched the previous 4 games where Josh was contained and the Bills really kind of struggled offensively, threw all of that out the window and said, we're going to play man, and Josh made him pay for 44 points.
Yeah, what I've noticed about him is his progression has been so impressive. I was trying to think of a player who you would compare to Josh Allen. We've seen guys who were not highly drafted or free agents come in, surprise everybody. Russell Wilson's one of those guys who was a 3rd-round pick. We know about Tom Brady. You know about Tony Romo, undrafted, that kind of guy. Josh Allen was a high draft pick
Yep, he
who
was.
people buried right away. Bills got the worst guy of the draft, overdrafted him. Why are they taking this guy in the top 10? And to see him progress, I cannot think of another player who was so criticized for his draft position
Yeah.
who has excelled this much. Usually it's a guy who's drafted that high and he's a bust.
Yeah.
Or he's drafted that high and he becomes a star. Or he's drafted that high and everybody loves him. He was drafted that high and people were like, this guy ain't going to be any good.
Yeah.
And like you said, even Bills fans were like, we wanted the other Josh.
Yeah.
The guy who never plays
Yeah.
and is on his third team, right?
I find that so interesting.
Hey, what about
What's up, Dan?
comparison?
Yeah.
Mike, what do you think? Big Ben?
Well, Ben was interesting
Small
because
school?
small school, and he got drafted a little bit later in that draft because there was, obviously it was Rivers
Eli-
and Eli
Eli,
went
right.
early, and then he ended up being really good because that was a really good team.
And but he was a
rookie.
game manager early
He
on.
really was.
And then became
Became the
this
guy.
slinger, this guy
But yeah,
that's battled through injuries.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
that team, and then he had to win it quickly winning a Super Bowl with that team. But even that, I just don't think anybody got. I mean, Josh got buried at
Yeah.
the draft.
Yeah.
I mean, we
were
heard it.
there.
Yeah, and it was like, what are they doing with this guy? And we had heard from the beginning. So
Yeah.
for him to go from, as rough as a rookie to obviously much better
Well,
last
he
year.
was thrown into it as well.
But his leap, we talked about it. His leap in year 3 is like Lamar's was in year 2 and
Yep.
Mahomes was in year 2. So Lamar played more than Mahomes his first year, and Josh
Yeah.
played more than both of them.
Yeah.
But they all progressed, and one won an MVP his first full year. The other one won an MVP, and Josh would absolutely be in that talk right now. Doesn't mean he'll win it,
yeah.
but he is an MVP caliber player right now.
But some of the criticism was fair. Not all of the criticism
Right.
on Josh was
No,
unfair.
yeah.
I think a lot of people, said the mainstream, all the media, all the outlets, they picked against the Bills. They didn't like the Josh Allen. There were reasons to be concerned about Josh coming out, Mike.
Yes, you're right. And the difference was, I think most of the criticism deserved of Josh was once we started seeing him play.
Yeah.
I mean, missed
Right.
open guys, he wasn't accurate, all those things. But to Dan's point, he got that in before he had taken a snap.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, he was Wyoming. He was like, honestly, it's very similar to like Mitch Trubisky, who
Yeah.
had limited number of starts. North Carolina, they trade up like the Bills did, and they take him. And,
But
he
they-
showed moments, but he hasn't progressed like Josh.
I will not forget when we were in Houston, Mike. You and I were down there. We were about to report on the draft, and we were talking to all the possible.
In Dallas, you mean? Yeah.
Dallas. Oh, sorry.
That's right. Yeah.
Wrong Texas.
That's
wrong
right.
Texas City. But we were in Dallas, and we were talking to the QBs that were about to get
Yep.
picked. We talked to Lamar. We talked. Baker wasn't there, but we did talk to Rosen. We talked to
Right.
Josh. And I remember asking Josh, what's your impression of
Oh, this was the best.
Bills fans and Bills Mafia? And he starts talking. He says, "Oh, they're the best. I like all of these things, great things." And he goes, "Oh shoot, I can't say that."
Right, because he didn't know who was going
He
to pick
didn't know
him.
where he was going, but like the earnest that he said that with, and
Yeah.
just you could tell that he was so excited. Obviously, he had been talking with Buffalo. He
Yeah.
didn't know where he was going to go, but I just always think of that and like how excited he was for that opportunity, and how much now after the draft, the fact that he grew up on a farm, like things like that, we know that Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane love, and I feel like it kind of embodies that Buffalo spirit. And to see him out there on Sunday,
Yeah.
having the game he had, and then to see the support after for what was going on. You don't get a lot of moments like that, I feel like, in the NFL. And Dan, I felt like Sunday was one of those, and what we've seen after the fact has been one of those moments.
Yeah, and like I said, a lot of these quarterbacks that have struggled, whether it's Mitch Trubisky or some of these other guys, Josh Rosen, that never really got a shot, they were moved on so quickly from. You have to give Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott and Brian Dable
Yep.
so much credit for sticking with him. And not only that, building around him. This is a completely different roster than what he has now. And like I said, Josh may not be at this point able to carry a team single-handedly. Even Patrick Mahomes doesn't carry the Chiefs. The Chiefs are still probably a playoff caliber team without Patrick Mahomes. But
Yeah.
you look at this team now, Josh has all these weapons. It's built around him and tailored to him, which is why you don't need to run the ball. But anyway, we'll get back to that.
On the Buffalo Plus YouTube page, Lewis Hawkins says Bills knew what they were doing, development. And that goes right to what Dan is saying. He did develop. You want your quarterback to have a level of cockiness, right? He
Yeah,
needs that.
He needs a little swag.
But you also need a guy who's coachable. I would say one thing we have found out about Josh Allen, he is very coachable. And listen to the guys. When you listen to Brian Daboll, right?
Yeah.
You listen to Jordan Palmer talk about working with him. He responds to coaching.
Yeah.
And he gets better at those things. I mean, he still has things he needs to work on. They all do. I mean, last week he took, what, seven?
Seven sacks.
Seven sacks, yeah.
In the game. Yeah, he made some mistakes. He allowed Seattle to get them behind the sticks a few times and made that game a little dicey. Well, we're being nitpicky here. The guy was player of the week for a reason, 400 yards passing. So he is now, we said coming into this year, what we want to see from Josh is him to be able to dominate a game throwing the ball. Well, he did it again on Sunday, 419 yards and 3 touchdowns.
And he's going to have to do it again.
Yeah,
and
again.
again.
And if this is the team that they're going to play up against, because the defense is not that good. They're showing signs of life. We'll get to that. But this is the team that we saw back in September that started to, really look like the 21st century offense, and that's what you want to see. Again, I've said it before. Stephon Diggs wasn't brought to Buffalo to block for, Devin Singletary. This is a team that is tailored to air the ball out with Gabe Davis and all of these guys. Isaiah McKenzie getting in the action. Like, this is an offense that is explosive, and when they're only scoring 17, 18, 19 points, their defense isn't good enough. I don't think any defense in the NFL is good enough.
Have you noticed every point he makes somehow is added towards saying you don't need to run the ball?
Yeah. I figured that out. He
I'm
also
gonna get a
leans into
t-shirt.
the camera really close.
I'm going to get a T-shirt that says you don't need to run the ball.
You can have that picture of Daboll on it, too, with the one that you love. Mike, I do have one question, though, because we talk so much about Josh, but obviously Stephon Diggs and what he brings to this team. I mean, he has been Josh's #1 target throughout this season. He leads the league in both receptions as well as yards. Do you think this Bills team could be off to this type of start if they did not have Diggs?
No. I think they'd still be good. I think you'd probably end up having to see more of a Gabe Davis, or the Bills would have drafted a receiver even earlier, I think would have been the case. But what I've been most impressed by Stephon Diggs, we didn't know anything. You know what I knew of Stephon Diggs? The great play against the Saints. Everybody knew that play. And you saw numbers. You played fantasy football. You know Diggs makes plays. And then you'd hear, he was a problem, right?
Yeah.
And remember when he got asked about that,
I'd love to be a diva.
He turned around and he was like, would love to be. Listen to this.
Mission accomplished, Jenna.
Yeah, no kidding. You've succeeded. But when, he sort of pushed back when reporters said, because he's like, I never said anything.
Yeah.
The perception was that he said things. But okay, that could be semantics, right? Maybe he pouted a little, maybe whatever. I will tell you, when he got to Buffalo, and remember, he didn't have the offseason. So it was sort of coming in, and, you wonder, he has been a phenomenal teammate, a leader. And the guy in that room, and he and Josh Allen, and they're BFF now, right? They're buddies. They're not just teammates. Like you heard him. What did he say? He's like
a true leader, called him a brother. I think what's impressed me the most, though, Dan, is just the toughness that we have seen on some of the catches that Stephon Diggs has put. Like you said, Mike, I thought, there was kind of that diva tag that was put on Diggs when he was coming in, but to see the way he puts his body on the line and the physicality that he puts in, that was something that I feel like was not a talked about part of his game at all, Dan.
Well, I think it's so funny, too, because this week we was asked a couple times, Diggs was, about, how have you turned over a new page and all of these things?
Yeah.
And then Josh was asked, did you expect this out of Stephon Diggs? And he said, yeah, I haven't heard anything negative about him. He's a total team player. And then he ended that by going, he does lead the league in targets, and I am throwing him the ball like 12 times a game. And it's like, but Josh gets it. How do you keep your star wide receiver happy? Throw the ball and throw the ball a lot.
Yeah.
And what I like, and I'll tell you what, we're going to see that this week, too, because I love the setup that the Cardinals have with their wide receivers. When you've got Hopkins, you've got Kirk going deep, and then you've got Larry Fitzgerald. But I love the setup that the Bills have, because I think the roles are defined with these Bills receivers. Obviously, Cole Beasley and Stephon Diggs are both listed as wide receivers, but it's a very different way that they play. But they're both tough. They make contested catches, and they know their role. And I just think John Brown is perfect for the role of that second wide receiver.
Compliment.
He is.
A couple of comments here on the Facebook page as well. Deanna Toodle saying that Diggs is just such a huge asset. Jack Finley saying that John Brown has obviously played a huge role.
Yeah.
And Paul DiMitropoulos saying, I still think that the workhorse is Beasley.
Oh,
There's 3 different people making 3 different comments, making 3 different points for 3 different players.
Yeah.
That is the weapons that Josh Allen gets to do it. Because, again, Mike, you're so right.
Yep.
Brown's not as good as a number 1, and Beasley's not as good as a number 2, but they all fit in right now like a glove with this offense clicking. That's why they should throw it more. Because you have all these great receivers.
Yeah, I can't take anything you say
You know who
seriously.
the diva on the set is?
I was going to say.
There's the diva.
You're pushing an agenda.
There's the diva.
Stop pushing your
Carmen
agenda.
Pagano says, I don't agree with the all-out throwing of the ball. How many Super Bowls did Dan Fouts win? And, Dan Fouts, great thrower. Dan Marino, great thrower. The NFL was a different thing back in the 80s. I mean, you can throw it and win.
And Mike was covering the 80s.
When I was around. And I did cover games in the 80s. But I will tell you this. You watch Kansas City, right? That's the goal, right? Kansas City runs the ball when they need to, and they'll probably get Le'Veon Bell involved and all being but they win games because they throw it. And I mean, we pick on Dan the same because Dan believes there should never be a handoff in the game.
Yeah, which is
we
outrageous.
feel like there are times you are going to need to run the ball.
Yes.
So you need to be able to run the ball. But in the old days, it was like run the ball to set up the no. You throw it. You throw it, and then you throw it again.
Mike, you bring up the point, though. You even talked to Jordan Poyer and some of the Bills' defensive players this week about how the standards have kind of changed. Like the Seahawks had 34 points. Russell Wilson was able to be, the Bills' defense did a great job on him, but the standard is kind of different now defensively.
Seahawks had 34 points and 400 yards plus in offense, and I thought the Bills' defense played great.
Yeah.
Because they got 4 turnovers. And, it used to be the idea of the NFL defenses used to be stop the other team. I mean, the goal could have been a shutout, right?
Yeah.
And then it's hold them under 100 yards rushing and all those things. And then it became, as teams started to move it, it was turn those touchdowns into field goals, which is still something you go for.
Yep.
And I still think that's the case. But I also think they're going to get first downs. They're going to move the ball. And then you got to take it away from them. Or get the sacks.
Yeah.
Get the negative plays. Push them to 2nd and 17. It does make it more difficult.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Teams are much more open to going for it on 4th down, moving the ball, and it's harder to stop teams. So what happened last week? Bills, as Dan said, you punched them in the mouth right away, and then when Seattle drove down with a chance to tie the game, the Bills stopped them on 4th down. Ended up being an interception, ended up getting it at the 20, but they stopped them. And then 3 other times they took it away in Seattle territory, which won the game for them.
I couldn't agree more, Mike. Just with the way the NFL is changing and analytics and all that stuff, teams are going for it on 4th down. They're not settling for field goals. They know that you have to score touchdowns to win games. So I couldn't agree more that I always remember when we talked to Lorenzo Alexander after games, and the Bills would have given up 500 yards. And he'd be like, yeah, but we made them settle for 4 field goals. And that was what it was. Now I feel like on 4th and 2 on the plus 50, teams are going for it. So now you have to get them into 3rd and long. You have to get them into 4th and 10, because 4th and 5 and in, the Ravens are going for it on their own side of the 50.
Yeah.
Like teams are pushing the envelope. Defenses are tested more in ways they've never been tested.
Yeah, I agree. And the defense we know this week is going to have quite the challenge in the Cardinals. And Kyler Murray, just the type of player that he is, the speed, the quickness that he brings to the table. 16 passing touchdowns, those 8 rushing touchdowns, 24 total touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. He had a great game last week. Now the Cardinals, they're 5-3 on the season. They lost to the Dolphins last week, but you talk about a guy that, top pick, a guy with huge expectations coming in, and we've seen him be the dynamic guy for Arizona.
Yeah.
Mike, this is a player that, how do you game plan for him when he has the speed but also that ability to be accurate?
It's funny because people want to compare him to Lamar Jackson.
They really do.
And I think he is a much more complete quarterback. And look, Lamar won the MVP last year, and he was great. But this kid can really throw it. And his speed is right up there with Lamar. He's not as big, I don't think, but he is incredibly quick, shifty. I think he's going to end up being way more Russell Wilson than Lamar Jackson. I think this guy has a chance to move around in the pocket. He's looking down the field. And when he takes off, he's looking to get to the end zone. He's smart. He's smart, running the ball. Now, he will turn it over, and he did. He did last week. He threw some bad balls. So does Russell Wilson. But I think this guy is got a chance to be that quarterback. And this offense, this is the air raid offense of Cliff Kingsbury, who doesn't just have a cool house in the desert.
He has
like
it is a cool house.
He does have a cool house.
He has a really cool, that courtyard?
Yes. He's a diva. But, you know, this offense is different. And like I mentioned, those receivers, like, they can really go. And I think this guy is going to be a handful on Sunday.
Kyler is more Mahomes than Jackson in the offensive system that they play in, Mike.
Yeah.
Like I said, you have Cliff Kingsbury, who coached Patrick Mahomes in college, and obviously he's worked there too. So different styles. He doesn't want to run as much. He will, but he is dynamic. He is, like you said, more Russell Wilson, but faster. He's got that baseball background, Mike, where we see, you know, he can kind of throw from all the different angles. He's definitely going to be, and he's starting to feel more and more comfortable. And he's also got that anger almost. After they lost to the Dolphins, he was pretty pissy, like after the Zoom call, saying that he doesn't like this losing thing that they've got going on here. And Miami, we'll get to them in a sec, but that was a good win for Arizona.
That was
a good win for Miami over Arizona. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
And Sean McDermott, he spoke yesterday about the challenge that will be in Kyler Murray this upcoming week.
The speed and quickness element is off the charts. Having never coached against him before, you know, just when you watch it on film, when you watch it on TV, quite honestly, you can see the difference. And we're talking elite athletes that are around him. It's a challenge. And, you know, he's a special player that's, you know, they're scoring, I think, the third most points in the league or fifth most points in the league. So they're an explosive offense, and we've got to be on our game defensively.
They are an explosive offense.
Yeah.
And that's going to be, to me, we saw this Bills defense take a step forward last week against Seattle and really contain Russell Wilson and even DK Metcalf. But can you do it now, a second week in a row, against another team
funny.
that's...
You're right, but Russell threw for 300 yards and DK had 7 catches for over 100 and a touchdown.
But if you...
But they did because of the turnovers. And we've seen them have their good moments, right? You know, the Jets game, that second half, they were dominant. They got sort of run over by New England's offense in the next game, but then they fought back. So, I mean, I think every week, you know, we talk about it all the time, but every week is a bit of a scramble in this league.
Yeah.
Every week is like, figure out how you're going to attack. And whatever you did last week, you may not be able to do this week. I mean, Jenna, the Bills could come out this week and run the ball 40 times against the Cardinals. There goes Dan.
Dan has left the studio. He's left the chat.
Yeah.
Well, you do know that Brian Daboll is going to try and take advantage of what he sees will be a weakness in the other team's defense. So
okay, here it is.
That is my thing, and that's, you know, I talk about
just wind him up.
I'm just saying, we talk about like not needing the running game. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think that the Bills now have a strength on offense. It's something that they necessarily haven't had in years past.
Yeah.
They have a good quarterback, borderline top 10 quarterback. So use that. In years past, the Bills were always trying to be, I always gave Brian Daboll credit for trying to build gadgets to take advantage of other defenses' weaknesses instead of playing to the Bills' strengths. The Bills now have a strength. It's airing the ball out. It's letting Josh cook. It's an Air Allen offense. Keep doing it, no matter what the opposing defenses is. Don't try and turn yourself into a running-style team when the opposing defense, just because they can't stop the run or they're 30th in the run. They tried to do it against Tennessee. It didn't work because they got away from what they are.
That game was a terrible game.
Let him, he's still
okay,
going.
sorry.
The Bills just aren't a good running team. Bottom line, they're just not good at running the ball. Maybe John Feliciano makes them better, but they are the best when Josh Allen is throwing the ball 35 times a game. Play to your strengths, not the opposing team's weaknesses.
Is he blue in the face yet?
No, he's going. Look at him. He's all fired up.
All right, we do want to get to the poll. Dan might be done with his rant. Mike asking, which team will be the Bills' biggest rival in the AFC East for the next 5 years? Next 5 years. And the overwhelming response, Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, which I understand, because right now, as I'm trying to remember who, we just got a comment saying, I think it was Shea White, who said, the Dolphins are only a game back in the loss column. This division isn't over. But I'm talking the next 5 years. The Dolphins right now have Tua, right?
Yeah.
And so they are ahead of both of the other teams right now in terms of quarterbacks.
Yeah, we have a couple other comments as well from people writing in about their thoughts on the Bills' biggest rival. Anthony saying it's looking like it's going to be the Dolphins. I could see why.
Yep.
We have another
Anthony
comment.
7-2.
Anthony 7-2. We like the tag as well. Zach saying Dolphins, good coach, young QB, decent wide receivers and tight ends. Naming the corners as well. I could see why. Definitely a young core. And then we have one final comment as well. Kevin saying Dolphins because they have the QB with the most upside.
Yeah, but Jets could get Lawrence, you know.
But that's not certain, and they're the Jets.
Yeah. So the thing about it, what made me laugh at this is you think about it. What was this guy thinking?
I was just say.
Are you really
I feel like Bill
dismissing him?
Belichick, yeah. Who's that?
I didn't know it was going to be at my screen, too.
Dismiss him now. I would just say, you know, it's like, you know, watch those horror movies and you drop the guy off the side of the building.
Scary.
Look at him. He's saying, okay,
Is this
wait
a doctored
till.
image
Now,
of
I
him
would
smiling?
say he's got to do a lot of work because that roster stinks right now.
Yes.
And they're going to have a lot to
Stinks.
do. But they had a bunch of players opt out. And you will see them. I think they're coming back with a new quarterback next year. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a new veteran quarterback and they draft somebody.
Yeah.
So
They're going to need to find a new all-pro defensive player of the year that they're going to probably get rid of in Son Gilmore. But Mike thinks that they're going to bounce back in no time.
Somebody's going to overpay Stephon Gilmore, and it's not going to be the Patriots. But what I'm saying to you is look at the way things can shift quickly in this league. And Dan mentioned, and we were talking about this, the Bills went out and got a quarterback.
Yeah.
And it's changed.
Absolutely.
Lawrence could be playing for the Jets, and you look at what Burrow's doing, right, with Cincinnati. I mean, the kid's really good.
You know,
So things
Adam
can
Gase
change
is a
quickly.
QB guru, too.
Yeah, look at that. Everybody who leaves Adam Gase gets
Quarterbacks
better.
don't grow on trees, though, Mike. There's only one Trevor Lawrence.
That's a good point.
There's only one Trevor Lawrence, and he could be playing for the Jets.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's not the Patriots, though.
Right. So if he goes to the Patriots, or if he goes to the Jets,
But there's
then
going to be
the
6 quarterbacks taken in this first round this
Yeah, but
year.
it doesn't mean they're good.
Josh
Look
Rosen.
at Josh
like,
Rosen. Yeah.
Well, Josh Allen was not the first quarterback taken either.
No.
But if you redrafted right now,
You'd
who would
probably.
the Cleveland Browns take number 1?
Yeah, Josh.
Josh Allen.
Look at that.
Not Baker Mayfield.
Look at that.
It's like so odd that the Browns would mess something up and fail
Well,
to develop.
that's
So
going to be a really
weird.
interesting one, too. Because this is
Yeah.
the time when teams need to make the decision
Absolutely.
on those quarterbacks. And obviously, the Cardinals bailed in 1 year
Yeah.
on Rosen. The Jets are very likely going to be bailing on Darnold. And the next one out of that group to go, well, Lamar's not going anywhere. The next one on that group to go could be Baker.
And the Bills are like sitting there with like popcorn, like
Yeah. Yeah, they're
like,
that meme.
What's going on down there, guys?
They
Like,
are
yeah.
that meme.
How's it going?
All right, let's take a look at the injury report as well, sponsored by UR Medicine Sports Medicine, our injury update. The Bills with a pretty lengthy list, but the guy, a couple guys jumping out. John Brown was, again, a full participant after not practicing before. We know Josh Allen, he's been good. Trey White also practiced as well.
Yeah.
So definitely important to see some of those guys out there. Mike, I mean,
Well, and Mitch Morris coming
Mitch
back
Morris
from
back.
the concussion protocol.
Yes.
I think what we're really seeing is more than even in past years. Wednesday is a borderline rest day or anything. Like, guys just are not practicing on Wednesdays. You see teams around the league where it's like, did not participate, and then on Thursday they're full. It's almost like they're saying,
Lorenzo
take
never
the
used to
day
play
off.
on Wednesdays either.
Yeah, and you'll
Yeah.
see some guys are
Veteran
listed
rest
as
day.
rest, but other guys, it's part of their injury. They're dealing with stuff. And they got the bye coming up.
yes.
So you've got this week's game and then the bye, which is big for some of these things that guys have been dealing with. So
Yeah.
it's a big plus to see them all back out there practicing today.
I'm a little worried before the bye. I feel like sometimes people, it's like,
You don't know.
when you have a Saturday, regular weekend and you're at work on Friday, you're like zeroing it, not speaking for myself tomorrow at all.
Wow. The
This
diva.
is how she earned the diva title.
Okay, that is like the most relatable thing ever.
Yeah.
Thank
well,
God
you didn't
it's
hear
Friday.
Dan or I say it.
Oh my gosh.
We don't talk
You don't
like-
need to say it. I
When
don't
we
need to-
are
You're
here,
not even working
it
tomorrow.
is 24/7.
You're not even working tomorrow.
I
you
am-
take off every Friday.
I am putting together a story for you that is going to be fantastic that you're going to be running here.
Well, I'm glad.
Yeah.
All right. I forgot. Oh, let's go to picks.
Why not pick? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm waiting.
No. Well, first we have a pick, a
Yeah.
special pick.
Oh, yeah. Before I get to that, before I start bragging, another person who predicted the Bills to win last week is our sponsor, Greg Connors. And I asked him, what do you expect this week?
I think the defense matches up really well against the Cardinals. Right now, the way the defense is playing on the front with the edge guys, they finally got disciplined last week. They finally maintained the edge with Russell Wilson, which was huge. They made some great plays. I think with Tremaine Edmonds, I don't think you have a better linebacker in the NFL that can match up better to Murray than Edmonds can. With his speed and now with his experience, I think he can do a great job shutting him down as well as or containing him as much as any defense could contain him. It's going to be an exciting game. I think this game, like last week's game, is going to be a high-scoring game. Yeah, I think this week's is going to be 35-28 Bills.
All right, he's
Isn't
going
it
Bills
fun,
again.
though? I would say, after years of saying, 14-13 in an ugly one,
Yeah.
we know that these teams can score, and we know
Yeah.
the Bills can score.
Yeah. All right,
So
fine.
go ahead.
I was going to say, fine, we'll get you to your picks. You were right last week. You picked the Bills.
That's it?
That's all you're going to get. You gloated the entire week.
I did, because my reasoning was sound.
It was.
And it was a good
It was
pick.
fine.
Okay.
I don't think anyone was expecting.
They didn't get a lot of people picking them.
No.
This week, when I look at this game, I think the Bills can absolutely go there and win. I think Arizona's a good team. I think they're similar to the Bills in a lot of ways. Like, they're good. They could get in the playoffs and do some damage, but we don't know yet because we haven't seen it. They both have really good young quarterbacks, one in his third year, one in his second year. Systems work, good wide receivers, smart head coaches, very different types of guys. I really wish they would have knocked off Miami. One, to help the Bills last week, and two, it would have made it an easy pick for me because I would have had the Bills on the road. I just don't like a home team coming off a loss where they're a little angry about it, and the Bills are coming off a big win. So for that reason, I'm going against the Bills this week. I've got Arizona outscoring them 33-30, and as I always say when I pick against the Bills, we hope we're wrong because I want to see the Bills keep winning.
Yeah. No, I get it. You are in front for our picks as well, so
Yeah, well,
we'll say that.
we'll see if you guys can gain on me.
Let's say.
Why? Are you insinuating that I'm going another direction, Mike?
Well, we're
let's
about
see.
to find out.
Yeah.
Yeah, in this one, I think this is going to be another offensive shootout. Like you saw, the over-under for this game is 56 points, so expect more points in this one. I think the Bills got back to what they wanted to do best. I think they got back again to throwing the ball with Josh Allen. The Cardinals' defense, there are weaknesses. You saw Tua look really good.
Yeah.
Josh is way better than a second start Tua. I like the Bills to win this game in a shootout. I think Kyler will go up and down the field. Arizona has scored 30 points at least in their last 4 games. They'll do it again, but Kyler with a weird turnover somewhere in this game, the Bills will come up with some kind of play. A.J. Klein looked good last week.
Yeah.
Confidence is a hell of a drug. Bills win another weird one. They may get punched in the face early. Like Mike said, the Cardinals are going to come out angry. But I like this offense, the way they're clicking. I trust Brian Daboll. Bills get the win before the bye.
Before you pick, John, I was thinking, what if the Bills win 38-34 and they run for 250 yards?
Would you be happy?
No. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that
All right,
is
you're in
too good.
second place. Go
I'm in
ahead.
second place. Yeah. Okay, so I am going with Dan. I am also picking Buffalo because I believe that the Bills are the more talented team. I think that Buffalo's offense, with Josh Allen finding that rhythm, finding that groove last week in particular. We know the relationship he has with Stephon Diggs. I expect Diggs to once again have a big game. And I think the Bills' defense really found their confidence last week. And Dan says confidence is a hell of a drug. Having those 4 forced turnovers against Seattle, against a Russell Wilson, I think that's so huge for the team going forward, being able to build off of that. And now is your chance to be able to do that in back-to-back weeks against a Kyler Murray, a player that we know is immensely talented. But again, having that confidence is huge for the Bills, especially in this second half of the season. And for that, I'm riding the hot hand in Buffalo.
Go ahead, Dan.
Mike, I agree with your point. I think this week is a test to see how mature this Bills team is.
Good point.
Yeah.
They're going to go up against their bye. Sean McDermott, I always love how the Bills post their locker room after the game. Sean McDermott gave them Monday off and the team kind of cheered and celebrated. But he said, focus up, see how disciplined we can be this week before the bye.
Yeah.
They're going to go across the country playing another very talented team that could put up 40 on them if they didn't take this week seriously. So if they're mature enough, they're not looking at the bye. They're looking at, hey, 8-2. and going 1-0 this week.
I will say there is definitely room for some hangover here for the Bills.
Yeah.
Coming off a huge win, like Dan said, having the bye coming up as well. There's definitely a point where you
mature they
can
are.
see this team take a lull, but I think knowing Sean McDermott and how disciplined he is, and also, again, the Bills are the underdog in this game. And if they were the favorites, I feel like they would kind of look at it differently. But considering Vegas is once again tabbing them as the underdog, I think once again that's where the Bills are going to find
motivation.
motivation.
Couple of quick things. One, the one part against the Cardinals, which made me go back and forth, is they've got Seattle the next week.
Yeah, it's a
And
huge
that's
game.
a huge game for them. They already beat them once. If they could knock them off twice, they're right there to win the division. Obviously, they'd have the edge.
Yeah.
A couple of things I wanted to mention. Larry Fitzgerald is awesome.
Yeah.
And he's still playing. And I think if you're a guy like Stephon Diggs, like Larry Fitzgerald is a guy you look up to. I mean, he is a legendary wide receiver in this league. I think for Diggs, this is a moment. Go out on the field and show, he's not guarding him.
Yeah.
And then the opposite for the defense, for the Bills. Trey White in the playoff game got lit up by DeAndre Hopkins in that second half. My guess is Trey wants his shot back at him again.
Yeah.
Now, Hopkins is really good.
Yeah.
But I think even though it's a different team now, as he's out of Houston.
Yeah, but still.
That was big. That second half was big, and I think Trey will be ready to go.
I could not agree
more. A
more.
lot of connections, too. Obviously, Jordan Phillips obviously playing for Arizona. And, Mike, you talked about Stephon Diggs and Larry Fitzgerald. Remember the story about Gabe Davis and Hooters?
Gabriel Davis.
That's right.
Huge Larry Fitzgerald fan.
He said he wasn't going to try and fanboy too much, but said that this is a pretty cool moment for him. I think it's a cool moment for everybody. I think Larry Fitzgerald carries that much cachet.
Yeah.
Sean McDermott said that he has made the NFL a better place and our world a better place. Sean McDermott likes to sometimes give compliments to a lot of people. That's the biggest compliment he's ever given.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's take a look at our final picks as we head into this upcoming weekend. Mike is in first place, 8-1.
That's impressive.
That is actually impressive.
Look at that.
7-2. Dan's a little struggle bus. That's okay. He's going for it. You're not doing too bad.
He's an aggressive gambler.
5-4.
Follow his picks.
I was going to say, Dan likes to,
I'm bouncing back.
You know what? Scared money doesn't make money.
That's right.
That's right.
Shoot or shoot.
Shoot or shoot. That's what we like. All right. Be sure to follow BuffaloPlus.com as well as Buffalo Plus's YouTube page. We thank you so much for joining us here on Buffalo Plus. We'll, of course, have more coverage as the Bills head out to the desert this weekend to take on the Arizona Cardinals on Sunday. For Mike Catalana and Dan Fates, I'm Jenna Cottrell. Thank you so much for watching.
The diva.